Okay, so I was like, well, let me put this on a another video. This is, I named this one Humanities and Holocaust. Okay, Humanities and Holocaust. So what it was is that I was looking at some material, opportunity, okay, for humanities, and it was talking about the 250 years of well, first I was like, "Ooh, we could do this, right?" You know, in regards to culture, I was like, "Oh, we could." Oh, and have this little thing. I was like, "And we could put it here." Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. But then I started reading it a little bit more, and it said, "Give information for the 250 years of America, of the United States." So I was like, "Oh Lord," right? I was like, "Well, how am I going to do this?" So I'm like, "Wow." Then that means we would need people who really understands, let's just say, Fort, okay, or the transition of America from one time or the other. You know, if we could get some of those people who talk about 400, and we'd be like, okay, what took place in America or the world around America around that time, around 250 years, shit, we could make this thing happen. So when that conversation about arts, humanities, and culture, it's like, okay, well, we are, you know, these people. I'm sorry, this kind of went somewhere else. Like it was, but was, is, and are, meaning that there was predominantly, um, that before it was looking like this, and so it was like we were there, and it was a lot of people. Like it was past tense because you still see a whole another ethnification. Is that a word? Ethnification. So I mean, we ain't saying that we ain't there. It's just that we is. Anyway, getting back to the point, I was like, yeah, it would be really, really good if we, with some of these people, they'll go back and they'll look and at 250 years of our existence, so that we can be inclusive to Black people. Okay, so we do have people who are like, I went to some small museums and they're like, well, you know what, my father or their mother, they served in the military and stuff like that. So I started to look back at different times of the year. You know what I mean? We've been provided, let's say, X amount of people. But then I'm like, if we could go a little farther than Marcus Garvey, you know what I'm saying? Like, go a little farther than that. I know we got Bethune Cookman and all of that kind of stuff, but go a little farther. I mean, let's calculate that up to about 250. What were they saying? I understand that if we could talk about Black rights and stuff like that, but in regards to the army and stuff like that, and then not only that, the governments and stuff, you know, and then that's another thing. The Confederate flag, it belongs to us, meaning not negatively, but the Confederate flag is, is belongs to us. It's two, and I don't want to say two, but two. So I started looking at the flags and stuff like that, and I was just like, okay, we got Europe, we got Jamaica, we got, here it is, those little four or five southern states. All this stuff is meaning something about people. But don't fret and don't be upset. Here it is, that big old X, that Chinese means something. And we just allowing the folks running around here just like that swastika. Like here it is. Oh, it all belong over there to Hitler and all them. It's like, on the contrary, my brother. On the contrary, my sister. And I said, I'm Lily. Don't be calling me nothing like that. Anyway, so I'm like 250 years. So I start thinking about the Holocaust, because you got these folks going back and forth about who did what worse. My brother, my sister. Honey, I'm telling you the God honest truth. Can we think about stuff that make you go, hmm. And then from there, it took place in this. So, anyway, all that thought became, they come up around the time of me thinking about what we're going to do about this 450, 450, I'm sorry, 250 years of America history. So then I started looking at, okay, so we got, because that was around, and then I started, and then, so anyway, I was like, okay, if we look at the 30s, then we had the Olympics was in Germany. So this is how we get on to this Hitler thing. And then what was going on is that while they were having this conversation about it, this is where we saw Marcus Garvey. But then yet we see and we know that there's other documents that were signed by Marcus Garvey that was also inclusive to other people. Okay, so then his efforts was to try to inform the people about them having the right to their safety. Then I'm like, well, where are those people who said, well, yeah, they were marching in that parade? Could he have been a representative? Where are those people? Right. So anyway, I said, okay, I'm just because I'm talking, having a conversation about one thing or the other like that, right? So then I started saying, okay, if we're looking at here it is that time of the World War II with Hitler, and then I said, and I started crying. I ain't gonna lie to you, I started weeping, and the reason why is because there's a lot of stuff that we're unaware of, or that you got these people that going back and forth, and it's like here it is, they talk about one thing or the other, their identity and all that kind of thing, being here, being there, and this, that, and the other, and this, that, and the other. And then I wanted to have a little conversation about family and all that other kind of thing. And I'm like, okay, well, then if you coming from here, then what about this over here? I mean, do you know where you coming from? Here it is, your mama, your daddy, your grandparents, and all that other kind of thing. And then you hear this, can you trace them? What's their name? This, that, and the other, this, that, and the other. What did they have to say about that time? Who went to them? Who was marching at that time? And this, that, and the other. How do we make this stuff like this, like that? Fact. It become a fact thing. Back all day. And I said, oh Lord, there's a chick, 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 chick. So I'm like, okay, well, if we're gonna look at here it is, World War II, and then now we gotta go back a little farther to talk about 250 years. And then I'm like, well, here it is, all that infusion right here. I ain't say confusion. I said, here it is now, infusion of history. Because they'd be like, okay, well, listen, well, here it is. They want to tell us about Louisiana, what's going on with Louisiana law. Anyway, Louisiana, and then talking about here it is, them Creoles and Cajuns and all that other kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, what does that to do with California? We right here. And you got all of them talking about here it is. Now that's the Mexican War in America. Were we in that Mexican War? Now here it is doing whatchamajigga. They're sitting there talking about all that brown, and they want to put, see, this is the thing. Then they want to put these other brown people in there, and they want to talk about them. And I'm like, they not the ones, and that's another kind of thing. And then here it is, the ones that we knew. Well, here it is, all of this, and here it is that. I mean, these are all different kind of looking people. You know what the hell I'm saying? And I ain't just talking about the pygmies. So something else went to up on the Holocaust. I said, thing to make you go, huh? I encourage us to go and see, go to those museums, go. Go to the museums, read up on the literature. Now, when you look at, here it is, that time, it has something to do with a movement of military. Look at the Holocaust, go to the museum, it has something to do with folk. So anyway, all this stuff, I was like, okay, well, hold on. So if we're looking at this time, who actually, and now we're looking at California because I'm in California. We're looking at Georgia because I'm in Georgia. However, we could do this all over the place. Somebody got some material they want to sit there and share. We could be all up in New York. We could be up in Illinois. We could be in Washington State. We could be in Texas, Florida, Idaho, Oklahoma, South Carolina, North Carolina, West Virginia, Maine, New Hampshire, Connecticut. Talk to me, 678-334-3409, IRATLIFT@gmail.com. So anyway, so I was just like, okay, well, humanities, just looking at it, right, folk? And I just said, wow, folk like fort. Okay. And then I was just like, wow, okay, let's come back a little bit. That was a big time, okay, for American history. Don't get it twisted. Oh, but here it is, American government, and here it is, this and the World Bank. We got Human Rights Declaration, human rights out of that. We got here it is, the United Nations, all out of WW2, boom. And even though the housing market was already there, even HUD had a new face. It was called on a different name and talk about civil and all that kind of stuff. It's one thing to talk about the social issues, but it's also the change of hands, the change of government. Don't get it twisted. I'm gonna let you know right now, honey, this is a big deal. Let's talk about it. But invite me somewhere. Hey, let's have a conversation, a dialogue. To go back and research all that stuff. That's the thing that I was saying about even Where we going from now? What's next? Because you can get into all that stuff, start researching it, you take it on an argument. You got to have a valid point, and here it is. Well, what color was that? Boy, I tell you the truth, this is too much information. Too much thought about nothing when there's something there for us. And this is the truth. Okay, so I said, Lord have mercy. But anyway, we got the Mexican War. Sorry. We got the Mexican War. Then we look at the Mexican War. These people will sit here and talk about, okay, Arizona, Nevada. And I'm like, well, hold on, this little cycle, all them people there, you understand? So here it is, this is a whole new little group. Like I said, how they want to keep up with this little uh, uh, um, way to use language to keep you from having employment. You know, this argument took place maybe about a good 30 years ago. So they say, you know, I read it in the document. Okay? But I learned another, you mean tell me we can get enough folks to learn speak some Spanish, yet? Understand what I'm saying? I mean, hey, I ain't taking a, but somewhere in there that should be deleted. It should not even be on the box. There's a lot of resources, you know. I mean, there's groups where you can send information, people could translate things. Matter of fact, even for people who do international politics, they have translators, okay? Matter of fact, they even have things where you can send a document and they will transcribe, here it is, the whole entire document into another language, okay? That should not be a requirement, not right here, right now, like that, okay? I mean, don't get me misunderstood. It's good to learn multiple languages. If you want to learn them. But then, okay. We so anyway, they want to say here, New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, and so I started thinking about. It. I said, okay, well, we talking about people who gonna come from one place, and we south, like we went south, like we American before. Here it is, Panama, and like we were over there, like Argentina, like that tango. But then we gonna go there. That's a whole other thing. People trying to find themselves, okay? And we are, it was and is, okay. But I'm like, okay, start looking at it. These other people is like, okay, now we're looking at some of the Californians who are maybe about 4, 5, 6, 9, 10 generations. Okay, so now we're looking at here it is Mexican War. Now, in regards to the Statue of Liberty, we're looking at the French. Okay, and the French and how the French now occupy. Well, the French become friends, and then we see now the Statue of Liberty. Okay, so that was going on in Florida. So we over here with these with Spanish. I mean, and I'm French and I'm Spanish and I'm American too, and all that other stuff too. So now, okay, looking at this, I said, looking at Fort, because you know the thing is that you know when we read it inside the book, we understand about Fort and we understand about here it is movements. Okay, so I'm like, okay, we're looking at one thing, and then okay, well, what about the Hawaiian? You know, now that but that was in the '60s. Was that around when? So all these people that sitting there talking about one thing and the other, it's just like, okay, well, we can sit there and talk about that book all day, but you know, what about here it is that Fort history? Then I'm like, okay, we have people who were serving at that time. I understand we got here it is these other groups, you know, United Nations. Okay, they come around here. It is that time. That was in the '60s. Okay, so here we look back before then, and then, okay, we look back. Okay, a little bit farther. So anyway, that's how all this stuff came about. Talking about humanities and Holocaust. Now we're sitting there talking about what was going on up there. Talking about the what is that name of that? The Massachusetts or the Boston Tea Party. And then here it is. Ain't no word on the conversation. Even though we're sitting there looking at the Great Lakes up there, those stuff going popping up there in the Great Lakes. And I'm like, okay, well, what was that up there going over there and so and so? There was that other thing up there when we start looking at Alaska and Russia and Washington State and stuff like that. Because here it is, it was like up there looking like that was looking. We got up there in Canada. So anyway, that's where all that humanity stuff went. It was not no readily up like here, this, that, and the other. But I'm like, well, here, this world was me in the dang old picture, and that meeting was someplace else, and we going beyond just I am. I'm like, yeah, huh? Man, you got these people going back and forth talking about they lost an identity and all that kind of thing. Boy, we got to find our place in many, many areas where these veterans and stuff like that, they could be putting these things together, right? To taught you, right? I mean, we got museums and stuff like that and history, you think, right? We do. But then I'm like, we have to go and investigate all of that. I mean, I understand we all about this chick, 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 and all that kind of thing. But then I'm like, we sitting there talking about humanities, and then and then they say it needs to be in a public space. And then, have something where people are able to see it. And I'm like, well, we have those statuettes that we sit there and people see it all the time. But what about right here? But I'm like, well, here it is. We can sit there and talk about thug life and hoodlums and all other kind of thing. But then sit there and talk about them flags. Lord have mercy. Woo, beyond, let's go beyond that bow and that ribbon. We gay. And I'm like, okay, croissant. Anyway, I'm like, okay, so now looking back at that, now we have to go look at the viewpoint of World War I. And then we got to go a little further than that. And where's that information at? They talk about 250 years of American existence. And then outside of us looking at the planes, and then these other people sitting there talking about this, and then they want to sit there and talk about the Holocaust, and they want to have us looking over there at Poland, and then we are Indians. Okay. And then talking about the Indians, and then these other people were talking about their TP, and they told them, I'm like, honey, we know about the TP and the totem pole, boo. I mean, we just like practically just like here. It's like, well, hold on. And how these people move and this and that. Boy, I tell you, this is the truth. So I'm like, okay, we're looking at World War I, and then we look at World War I, and now that was just like X amount of years ago. And then over here, these other people want to sit there and talk about Europe and England and all that other kind of stuff. And the English and American war, or here it is, transition. The man say he come over from here it is, the king, over there in Europe, and come and settle over here. Then we get that religious thing, and they said talk about the Protestants and all that kind of stuff. I said, boy, this stuff is thick. And it's not thick as thieves. But yeah, they want to be like they my friend. I said, I got a problem with this kind of stuff. Hold on. Anyway, so anyway, that's where that went. It was looking at how would I, or with the creation and support, have the dialogue about America's history and why I am a supporter of our. We live here, so I mean, the flag, the little stars and stuff like that, and the stripes, what all that stuff mean, the red, the right, and all that other kind of thing. And here it is, the star T, and how those stars and the little ribbons. And boy, I tell you the truth, this stuff started looking like it was looking. But anyway, so we look at the Boston Tea Party. Then we look at then that comes into now we're looking at here it is America, and then we start looking at here it is one part or the other, and then we just say well this part was that part, the Spanish and the French, and then there was another one. Then here it is a little Germany right there. So when he's talking about all these little hands and money and all that kind of stuff. Then I'm like, you mean tell me we got these people in the military, we got veterans and stuff like that. I mean, I'm telling you about this brigade. This stuff is for real. And I'm like, okay, chick, 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 chick. I mean, how realistic should we be? So then I started looking over here, and I'm like, okay, there's Canada. Okay, I mean, to go and look over there, that's a whole nother subject. Talk about, the Caribbean. And then a lot of those, then I started saying, oh, yeah, a lot of those people start moving because of the weather, hurricanes and stuff like that. So a lot of those people, weather became a subject. Okay, weather. So then I'm like, okay, we can sit there and talk about here. There's other places in the world. We can sit there and talk about in World War I and World War II and all that other kind of thing. And then look at, Europe. Okay, what was going over there in China? then what was going over there. Then here it is. These people want to go take a way over there to be talking about 6,000 years ago, migration and all that kind of thing. We already got that part understood about that. And here it is, all them kin, boy, that whole anyway, and then all the other kind of things. It's like, okay. So all right, so then I was like, okay, we coming back around, that's looking at the world, okay, and then yeah, here it is, we chose right here. Then you got these people sitting there talking about now I was looking at these little statuettes, and these little statuettes like they either come from astronauts or people who were Marines, not Marines, but doing naval stuff. You know how they used to have the little hat, and you'll go inside the water, scuba divers or whatever. So those two become one and the same. Oh, were they astronauts? Did they already discover this and that? I was like, wow, let's be real, people. They either come from the sky or the water. So this could be it was either astronauts or they were scuba diving or something, okay? And inside the water, they had a little hat, and the water, the little oxygen, or they were astronauts in the sky. And I'm like, well, here it is. If we already know, then what is the issue? I mean, we could have already, oh, you see what these people, I said, well, then why are you talking to little people? That's my thought about it, right? Okay. So anyway, I'm like, okay, we're looking around here, and then we go around there, and then how then it's like here it is for real. These people in regards to here it is, all that and all that. And I think I said something about look at segregation, integration, and all that kind of thing because this stuff's been used in such a way. Chick. Anyway, and so anyway, not it's chick, not cheek, chick. Okay. So I was like, come back around. We look and then we start talking about here it is that in the middle. So you start looking at Oklahoma and Kansas and Missouri and all that stuff in the middle. Then I'm like, okay, now we're getting information about that Mississippi River. And so then that means should we be doing research on the individual wars, like the French wars and history? Then we'll be trying to find ourselves, and then here it is. If we're looking at them conveniently to went somewhere else, your own people, the black, and your own people. And I just said, well, hold on. I said, somewhere in there, we should understand about might. I mean, somewhere in there, the agreement should be that we were participating, we were fighting and trying to preserve ourselves. Just no different than get here to somebody else wants to sit there and talk about how they put their flag on Mars. You understand? It just be like we just come shackled and here it is, shackled and come with a fight. And then here it is to talk about being whipped, and here it is all this mind thing, talk about the thinking and all that kind of thing. Like it's as if we didn't. You tell me about Botswana all day long, okay? This is kickboxing, and here it is all that night and onion and all that kind of thing. Boy, I tell you the truth, this just isn't like a star, and that saw ring situation. You gonna say what? Understand what I'm saying, okay? Yeah, here it is. Tears bigger than river water is fresh water. But salt water, you see this big, right? I'm gonna go there, okay. So anyway, so then we're looking over there, Argentina. So we start looking over there, Argentina, and then you get them people over there doing that. And when whatchamajigget, they were sitting there because they over there trying to help them. Boy, that man was over there and he was looking at that thing. I said, Lord, have mercy. Honey, this stuff is for real. Ethnicity is real, boo. I'm not gonna go there. You understand that? Okay. So then they want to sit there and talk about all that, and you got these other people who sit there talk about here, this, that, and the other, and all that. Now we're going into here it is this colorism. And all that came from the thought about humanities and Holocaust. We think about humanities and then we talk about America and we talk about sport and getting together, we could sit there and talk about the existence, but is it beyond the church? I guess we could have went to the church, but some of the greatest wars took place on religion. So what they sitting there say, well, this one is that. I'm like, well, honey, I ain't gonna fit for you, whatever they is. That I'm not arguing with that. I'm cool, cool, right? You understand? So the goal would be like, oh, anyway, let me go back. So most of your wars have been political and been religious. So now you're talking about culture, okay? So culture is also inclusive to language, okay? So when you have people saying, well, listen, they were slaves or this and that, let's be educated on these things because it was a time where people, prisoners of war, I mean, that's folk, this is for real. And then want to be like, oh, look, but we don't go there, okay? So I started looking at here it is, okay, humanity and 250 years of America, and then looking around the world, and then looking at some of the greatest events that took place. And we could talk about people, but then I was just like, okay. And so this, anyway, it was not, it was a thought to where we are right now here in the United States, in this particular area, to talk about where, you have people who say, okay, well, yes, we have black people who were a part of the fort, and then the greater story, and then, the planes and stuff. So in World War One, we had planes. Do we have, black people in that? I mean, we could talk about everybody else, but my thought is to talk about humanities and how we were involved. Okay, so I mean, I understand we got that little railroad, and here it is, the Asians and them building the train. But I was like, well, hold on. You got me misunderstood about some things, okay? Don't get it misunderstood because here it is. I'm not going to even go into here it is. The siren, siren, sorry, or sorry. Like that. Anyway, um, we're modest people. We're cool with the sweet. Anyway, that was a opportunity under humanities. And I was just like, well, for real, you started thinking about all of that. It'd be like, that's a few generations for us to be just trying to exclude ourselves from here it is, this land right here. And that'll be Canada, North America, Central America, South America. Okay, and then all the other people, beyond talking about how those people were on the boat trying to get to Florida, our story is greater than us sitting there talking about a motherfucker have us like we just shackled up, unless you talk about prisoners of war. But then even looking at that, hold up, sharecropping and stuff like that. Our story is grander than somebody else trying to tell you that here it is, you just come on some boat. And that boat is boats or boat or boat. I don't know. I don't understand what you're saying, but this story is bigger than that. And then that's where the thought about fact is there. Fact. Beyond here it is, them talking about mass incarceration and the reason why we don't say mama, and the reason why we don't say daddy, and the reason why we don't say that picture of them, the children. The children, what you doing to the children? Lord have mercy. These people that went them. Ah! Okay. Home alone. So anyway, I don't know. That's going into another thing for a group of veterans. I had that team like that, a group of veterans and stuff like that. Be like, let's make this happen. They got to go do some research. Maybe they need to go travel up into New York. Maybe we could do it. Well, New York. I said New York. Like, I'm sorry, New England. Let me say New England. Go to New England side or other areas and tour some of the museums, military museums, and inquire with some of the veterans them and accumulate some stories. I think that I'm like, yeah, I do care about our veterans. We do got black people who were serving in the military, who retired and all that kind of thing. What they got to say? Anyway, that's what that was. Okay, it was like, okay, we're taking us to 250 years plus of American history, and where do we start from there to get there? And then it just kind of started off looking at a Holocaust, and then coming back, and this, that, and the other, and yet here it is, the swastika is, yes, here it is, we are, and then this, that, and the other. I mean, they give it all to here it is them sitting there talking about how they own a little juice team. I'm like, this don't make no sense. You got somebody else telling the story, and these other people, I mean, nothing wrong. You can talk about defense and Pence and other kind of stuff. Boy, I tell you the truth. Anyway, Humanities and Holocaust, Beyond Poland.